Welcome back to the Investing Talk podcast. Today we're going to be looking at Uber,
Oh, interesting.
ticker symbol UBEI.
Okay.
I think a lot of people are familiar with Uber as a company. They probably use the
Yeah,
services,
for sure.
but maybe haven't really considered it as an investment lately.
Right.
So that's what we're going to try to do today, kind of dig in and see what's going on.
Sounds good.
Uber's been making a lot of headlines recently, had a really strong finish to 2024,
Uh-huh.
and they've laid out some pretty ambitious plans for 2025.
I see.
So there's a lot of buzz in the financial world about Uber.
Okay.
So is it a hidden gem, or are there some things we should be cautious about?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think the answer might surprise you.
Okay.
You really have to look kind of beyond the headlines,
Yeah.
really kind of dig into what's driving their performance
Yeah.
and also, what potential challenges they might be facing.
Absolutely. So let's jump right in.
Okay.
Uber just hit a major milestone, their first ever billion-dollar GAAP profit.
Wow.
And on top of that, they generated over $6 billion in free cash flow.
Okay.
Now, to put that in perspective, that's even more than Tesla generated
Huh.
with their $3.6 billion.
Interesting.
So does this mean we're looking at the next big success story in the stock market?
Well, I think it definitely is a sign of strength,
Yeah.
but it's really important to always keep in mind context.
Right.
So, Tesla operates in a very different market.
Yeah.
So while it's impressive that they're exceeding Tesla's free cash flow,
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean that Uber is a guaranteed investment success.
Okay, good point.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that we should be looking at
Yeah.
to get a better sense of Uber's prospects for the future?
Okay.
Now, on the surface, their Q4 2024 results look amazing.
Uh-huh.
Revenue growth was almost 17%,
Yeah.
beating market expectations. I mean, what's not to love?
Right. But what's really interesting is how the market's been reacting to all of this.
Oh, okay.
Because despite that strong Q4 performance, there has been some volatility in Uber's stock price.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Why would there be those mixed signals if they're doing so well?
It seems like investors are a little bit spooked by what Uber is saying about Q1 2025.
Okay.
Their projections for gross bookings between $42 billion and $43.5 billion
Okay.
actually falls short of what analysts were hoping for.
Huh.
And then on top of that, they're also facing a pretty significant currency headwind.
Oh, okay.
Impacting international revenue forecasts. It's about 5.5 percentage points.
I see.
So I think that's making the market a little bit hesitant.
So we have this tension now
Yeah.
between exceeding expectations in Q4
Uh-huh.
and then maybe potentially falling short in Q1.
Right.
So for someone who's listening to this and thinking about maybe investing in Uber,
Yeah.
what does all this mean for them?
Well, that's where things get really interesting
Okay.
because this potential slowdown that's being projected,
Yeah.
it actually suggests that Uber might be undervalued right now.
Okay.
So their free cash flow yield sits at 4.33%,
Uh-huh.
which actually exceeds the market average of 3.6%.
Wait, are you saying that even Uber thinks that their stock is undervalued?
Even their CFO has gone on record saying that they believe the stock is undervalued.
Wow, okay.
And, they're not just talking the talk,
Uh-huh.
they're also walking the walk.
Okay.
If we go back to February of 2024, they announced a $7 billion share buyback program.
Okay.
And they've said that they're going to be continuing those share buybacks and even accelerating them throughout 2025.
Now, for the folks who are listening who maybe haven't heard of share buybacks before,
Yeah.
what is a share buyback and why is that a good thing?
Well, a share buyback can actually really help boost the price of a stock.
Okay.
Because when a company buys back its own shares,
Uh-huh.
it actually reduces the number of shares that are available on the market.
Okay.
And that can actually make the remaining shares more valuable.
I see.
So it's a really strong signal from a company that they believe that their own stock is a good investment.
So it's like they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Exactly.
They're saying, we think this is a good deal, even if maybe the market is a little bit hesitant right now.
Yeah, and you also have to think about the bigger picture.
Okay.
So the rideshare market is predicted to have explosive growth over the coming years.
Wow.
It's actually expected to more than double in size,
Oh, wow.
from $98 billion in 2025
Okay.
to over $200 billion by 2030.
Okay.
And Uber, with its strong market position, is really poised to benefit from this growth.
So fundamentally, things look really strong for Uber.
Yeah.
But what does the technical analysis say? What are the charts telling us about the stock?
So from a technical standpoint, the charts are showing a slight bullish bias in the short term.
Okay.
So right now, Uber is actually trading above both its 50-day and 200-day moving averages.
And that's a good sign, right?
That's generally considered to be a very positive sign.
Okay.
And if this trend continues, we might even see what's called a golden cross formation.
Well, can you remind our listeners what a golden cross is?
Yeah, absolutely. So golden cross happens
Yeah.
when a shorter term moving average,
Okay.
so in this case, the 50-day moving average,
Mm-hmm.
it crosses above the longer term 200-day moving average.
Okay.
And that's often viewed as a very strong bullish indicator,
Okay.
suggesting that there's a potential for prices to continue increasing.
So that's something to look out for, but you said it was a slight bullish bias.
Right.
So what are some of the things that might be holding it back from a stronger surge?
So while Uber is trading above those key moving averages,
Yeah.
the trading volume has actually been a little bit lower than average recently.
Huh.
And that could indicate that we're in a period of consolidation
Okay.
before the next big move.
So just a little bit of uncertainty in the short term.
Right. And here's another really interesting data point.
Okay.
So the median analyst price target for Uber has been set at $62.
Okay.
But the stock has already gone above that,
Huh.
which suggests that even the analysts might be underestimating Uber's potential.
Interesting.
Yeah, but of course with any investment, it's really important to remember that there's no such thing as a risk-free investment.
Yeah, for sure.
We need to be taking a balanced view.
Yeah.
And think about the potential headwinds that Uber could be facing as well.
Absolutely. So what are some of the risks that investors should be aware of when it comes to Uber?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones is always regulatory changes in this industry.
Okay.
Because new laws or regulations could really significantly impact Uber's operations
Uh-huh.
and their profitability. For
Yeah.
example, right now, a lot of cities are actually starting to talk about,
Yeah.
implementing stricter rules for ride-sharing companies,
Okay.
which could actually end up increasing costs for Uber.
Right. What about competition? I mean, everyone's talking about self-driving cars.
Yeah.
Is that a threat to Uber?
Yeah, I think it's a great question and definitely something to keep an eye on.
Okay.
But the reality is, I think widespread adoption of self-driving cars is still probably a few years away.
Okay.
Companies like Tesla and Waymo are making a lot of progress,
Yeah.
but there are still technological and regulatory hurdles
Okay.
that need to be overcome.
So it's a potential threat,
Yes,
but not an immediate one.
right.
Anything else investors should be thinking about?
Well, those currency headwinds that we talked about
Yeah.
could continue to impact their international revenue.
Okay.
And of course, we always have to remember general market volatility.
Right.
Even the best companies in the world can be impacted by broader market downturns.
Right. And even from a technical perspective,
Yeah.
that recent high of $80.35 that we saw
Uh-huh.
back on February 14th
Yeah.
could act as a resistance level.
Yeah, definitely something to keep in mind.
So that might limit short-term gains.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
Uber has shown some amazing performance.
Uh-huh.
Exceeding expectations last quarter,
Right.
but there are some potential challenges ahead.
Absolutely.
So for our listeners who are trying to figure out,
Yeah.
is Uber a good investment?
Yeah.
Should they buy, hold, or sell? What's the takeaway?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
I think the answer is it's complicated.
Okay.
Investing in Uber is a bet on the future of transportation.
Okay.
And it's a company with a lot of potential,
Yep.
but also some inherent risks.
So there are definitely some pros and cons to weigh
Yeah.
before making a decision.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we've given our listeners a lot to think about.
Yeah.
When we come back, we're going to delve a little bit deeper
Okay.
into some of the key considerations for anyone who's thinking about investing in Uber.
Sounds good.
And we'll try to help you make sense of all of this information.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Okay. It's interesting because we've talked a lot about how Uber is in this rapidly growing market.
Yeah.
But they're not just a rideshare company anymore. I mean,
That's-
they've expanded into things like food delivery with Uber Eats,
Right?
freight services. They're even exploring things like flying taxis.
Flying taxis. That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, it
Are you
does.
serious about that?
It really seems like it. I mean, they're putting money into research and development,
Mhm.
partnering with companies that are developing this technology.
Okay.
So, it's still early stages,
Yeah.
but it really shows that Uber's committed to innovation
Okay.
and kind of pushing the boundaries of transportation.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah,
It also sounds pretty risky, though.
it does.
I mean, what are the chances that this flying taxi thing actually takes off?
Well, I think it's definitely a long-term bet.
Okay.
There are a lot of technological and regulatory hurdles that need to overcome
Yeah.
before we start seeing flying taxis everywhere.
Right. Right.
But if it does work out,
Yeah.
it could be a total game changer for Uber.
Yeah, it could be huge.
I mean, it would open up a whole new market for them
Right.
and potentially revolutionize urban transportation.
So for our listeners who are thinking about adding Uber to their portfolio,
Yeah.
what are some of the key things they should be thinking about?
Well, besides flying taxis,
Yeah, besides flying taxis, exactly.
the most important thing is to do your research.
Yeah, good advice.
Don't just rely on what you hear on this podcast or what you read in the headlines.
Yeah,
Dig into Uber's financials, look at analyst reports, see what their competitors are doing,
right.
and really try to get a sense of the company's overall strategy.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Yeah.
We always encourage our listeners to be informed investors and to do their due diligence.
Absolutely.
It's your money. You should know where it's going.
Right. And you also need to think about your own personal goals and risk tolerance.
Right.
So are you a long-term investor looking for growth,
Yeah,
or are you more interested in short-term gains?
right. So maybe Uber would be a good fit for someone who's looking for growth,
Potentially.
especially given how much the industry is predicted to expand.
Right.
But it's important to remember,
Yes.
past performance is not a guarantee of future results.
It's not. You're absolutely right.
So even if you're feeling really good about Uber's long-term potential,
Yeah.
it's always wise to start with a position size that you're comfortable with.
Absolutely. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Diversification is key.
That's one of the fundamental principles of investing.
Yes, it is.
And, if you are someone who likes to use technical analysis,
Yeah.
keep an eye on those support and resistance levels we talked about earlier.
Right. So we have those support levels around $67, $66.55, and $65.68.
Right.
Those could provide a little bit of a cushion
Mm-hmm.
if the price starts to go down.
Yeah, that's right.
And on the flip side,
Yeah.
that high of $80.35 could act as a resistance level.
Exactly.
So it might limit the gains in the short term.
Right. So those technical indicators can give you a sense of where the price might move.
So it seems like there's this kind of tug of war going on
Yeah.
with Uber right now
Yeah.
between these bullish and bearish signals.
It's a very dynamic situation.
Yeah.
So it's important to stay informed
Yeah.
and watch what's happening in the market.
Okay, so we've talked about the financials,
Uh-huh.
the industry outlook,
Yeah.
the potential risks.
Right.
We even touched on the technical analysis. So for our listeners, what's the bottom line?
Yeah.
What's the one key takeaway?
Well, I think the takeaway here is that Uber is a company at the forefront of a really radically evolving industry.
Yeah.
They're generating strong cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
They're innovating at a very fast pace.
Okay.
And they definitely have the potential to be a major player in the future of transportation.
Okay.
But they also face some pretty significant challenges.
Okay.
So, things like regulatory hurdles.
Right.
Competition from other big tech giants,
Yeah.
and just the general uncertainty of emerging technologies.
So it's not a simple yes or no answer.
No, it's not.
There are definitely some pros and cons to weigh
Absolutely.
when you're making a decision.
I think ultimately the decision of whether or not to invest in Uber really depends on your own individual goals,
Yeah.
your risk tolerance,
Uh-huh.
and how you personally view the company's future prospects.
So we've given you the information,
Yeah.
the insights,
Uh-huh.
but the final decision is up to you.
It is.
And remember, this is just the beginning.
Yes.
We've provided a good starting point here,
Yeah,
but it's important to do your own research,
absolutely.
your own due diligence
Uh-huh.
before making any investment decisions.
Right. And we've included some links in the show notes
Oh, yeah, good point.
to some really great source materials that you can explore further.
Yeah, there's a wealth of information out there.
There is.
And it's important to stay informed and educate yourself.
It-
And don't forget to subscribe to the Investing Talk podcast.
Yes.
We have lots more in-depth analysis
We do.
and discussions on other exciting investment opportunities.
Yeah, we love talking about this stuff.
Yeah, we do. We're here to help you navigate this crazy world of finance
Mm-hmm.
and help you make some smart investment choices.
That's right.
And we love hearing from you. So if you have any thoughts about Uber, let us know in the comments. Is it a buy or a hold, or are you staying away?
Yeah, we want to hear from you. And we're also always looking for new companies and sectors to explore. So if there's anything you're interested in learning more about, leave us a comment and let us know. We're all about making investing accessible and engaging for everyone.
That's right. So tell your friends and family and fellow investors about the Investing Talk podcast. We're here to help everyone navigate the crazy world of finance and make smart investment choices.
Absolutely. And as always, happy investing, everyone.
And remember, do your own research.